Hello, my name is Jeff Nappi. I am the Director of Software Engineering at ClearVoice. I gave a talk this past Tuesday, March 15th, 2016, at GoDaddy about ActionCable and Rails 5. We didn't get a chance to film it, so I thought I would put up a video on YouTube of the talk. Here's a cat. We're going to talk about ActionCable. ActionCable is real-time for Rails. Users love fast. It's a fact. Chat like Slack, collaboration, Google Docs, instant gratification. People want speed. People want to see things update in real time. ActionCable helps you build real-time apps with Rails. Before ActionCable, if you wanted to build a real-time app with Rails, you had to lean on a third-party gem like Fay, or you needed to use Node with Socket.io, or you would use a third-party hosted service such as Pusher. That's no longer necessary with ActionCable. And ActionCable is easy. Like DHH says, if you're starting a new app or you're starting a new project, building a majestic monolith is going to get you there faster. If you're not having to work with multiple technologies or have to manage your app across services and across repositories, you're going to move a lot faster. And with Rails 5, you really can build a highly responsive real-time app with just straight up Rails. So when you get started with the ActionCable app, the new file structure you're going to be getting, you're going to have a channels folder added within your app. This will be the standard structure. You'll have an application folder, ActionCable folder within that with your superclasses for your application cable. You have the channel there and the connection. And then for each channel you create, you'll have a named _channel.rb file. And that's where you'll primarily have your surface logic for your channels. On the front end, you'll have channels folder added in the JavaScripts. And this is assuming you're using the generators. You could write the JavaScript yourself, in which case these generated files could and code could be placed anywhere. But with the use of the generators, you'll have a channels folder, and you'll have name.coffee for each channel that you create, and then you'll have your main cable.coffee. Speaking of coffee, I'm going to have a sip of coffee right now. So with the new channel generator in Rails 5, you can simply run Rails generate channel and then the name of your channel and list out the methods you want to create. You should think of ActionCable channels as methods as RPC method calls. So they're remote procedure calls or remote function calls. So when you make a call to an ActionCable channel method from the front end, you're going to be executing that code on the back end, nearly as if it was local. So as I did in my talk this past week, I'm going to do it live. We're going to go ahead and code up a quick ActionCable example. So why don't I'll switch us over to the terminal and we'll take a look at it. So first thing we're going to do, we need to make sure we have the latest Rails installed, and we're going to make sure we have the pre-release by passing the pre-flag. That's going to ensure we get Rails 5.0 beta 3 at this point. So we've got 5.0 beta 3 installed. Now we're going to create a new app. I'm just going to use R, which is an alias that I have for the Rails command. So I can use, with the shim, you got to specify the Rails version. So we're going to specify, if we have multiple versions installed, we need to specify what we would like to use. So I'm going to use Rails _ 5.0 beta 3 _ new, and I'm going to call this app AC. Okay, now that we got our app installed, I'm going to jump into it, and I'm going to go ahead and initialize a Git repository and add the current folder to it, and then I'm going to go ahead and commit. I'm doing this because I think it's good practice to create a Git repository for every project you're working on, and I also want to show basic usage of Git. So I just ran basically a Git init and a Git add, and then I ran a quick commit there. So now we have our repository set up. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and generate a rooms controller. So we have a chat rooms. We're going to have a controller there. So I'm going to go ahead and run that, and we're going to go ahead and generate that rooms controller. Rooms controller is going to give us a place where we can display messages and where we can have the main page for our app. So now we've got that initialized. I'm going to go ahead and create a model. We're going to have a message model since we're making a chat service. So we're just going to create a quick message model. We're just going to have content, a content attribute on it, and that's going to be a text field. Now that we've created a model, I'm going to go ahead and migrate. One cool thing about Rails 5 is that we no longer use the rate command to run our tasks. We simply use the Rails command for everything. So now instead of using rake db migrate, we use Rails db migrate. I'm going to go ahead and commit again now that we've created those, so that we have that in our history. Now we have a real quick commit there. We added our folder. We're going to commit it, and now I'm going to go ahead and jump in and create a little test message so we can see that when we run Rails. I'm going to use the Rails console. Real simple. You just type Rails C. That's going to give you a console. It's going to give you kind of access to the back end of your app if you're not familiar with it. So we'll go ahead and do message create content hello world. And now we're going to have that message. So if I do message.all, we'll see that hello world message has been created. Cool. So now that we've done that, I'm going to go ahead and update our routes so that we can pull this up in a browser. We go here. We're going to actually have our root route go to our rooms show method here. So go ahead and do that. Now I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate. We'll go ahead and start the server. So I can do rs, run the server. Okay, Rails server is starting. And then let's go ahead and pull open a browser for that. We're going to go ahead and go to pull up localhost 3000 there. And there we go. We got our rooms controller is definitely loading. Now, I'm going to go ahead and update the controller so that it'll load messages. And then I'm going to update our templates here so we can see them. So let's get back into the terminal here. And we'll go ahead and update our controller. We're going to implement this show method here. We're going to load all the messages in here. We're going to say message all. In a real app, this would be paginated. We wouldn't load every single message. We would load only the recent messages and then have a method, a way of paginating those results. But for our demonstration here, I'm just going to load all the messages that we have. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and update our show template here. Now, instead of writing this HTML right now, I'm just going to go ahead and pop in a simple little prepared template I got here. So it's just going to have, an H1 here with our ActionCable chat. It's got our messages. It's going to render the messages into a div. That's all that's going to be. Now we're going to need to create a message partial view here. So I'm going to go ahead and open up our views here and go ahead and create a folder for that, because since we haven't created any yet, we don't have a folder there. So I'll go ahead and create a messages folder under the views slash c underscore message.html.erb. Now we got that up. We got that file created. Now I can pop into messages email.html.erb, and then I'm going to go ahead and populate that with an existing partial that I created for that. There we go. It's just real simple. It's just a div class message. Got a paragraph tag. We're going to put the message content in there. That's going to be about it. Great. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and do a get add again because we have our views created. So I'm going to do a get add, and I'm going to do a get commit for our views here. Now we can go ahead and pop back into the browser, and we should see our messages pop in. Great. Here's our test message that we created previously. That's just a basic Rails app now. So we've got a message model where we're storing messages, and we've got a controller where we're able to contain those messages within a room. So next step, we're going to go ahead and generate an ActionCable channel so we can see ActionCable. Let's get to work. I want to show you how easy it is to get real-time in your app. So ActionCable, simply, I'm just going to generate, I'm going to use that generator. I'm going to say our Rails generate channel. I'm going to call it a room channel, and I'm going to create a speak method within that channel. Real quick. So we got our room channel generated, and we got our for the back end, and we got our room.coffee for the front end generated. Now, in order to activate ActionCable, we're going to go ahead and pop open the app, assets, JavaScript, cable.coffee. And in here, you just need to uncomment these two lines. That's it. That turns on ActionCable in the front end. And now you need to open the routes.rb. So you'll pop open routes. We will go ahead and uncomment this line here that mounts ActionCable for the routes. So that will activate ActionCable, and we'll be able to see it in the front end. The next step in order to implement this will be to open up the front end coffee channel and we'll implement the speak method there. So let's do that. We'll go into room.channel. And let's implement that speak method. This will end up getting encoded into a JSON object and sent to the backend. And on the other side of things, we want to implement the receive method. And so when we receive a message, we're just going to go ahead and pop that into our DOM. Now let's actually wrap that in make that a little bit prettier here. Great. So now we got that implemented in the front end. That's gonna be when we speak, we're gonna be calling our backend speak RPC with the passing in message into it, and then when we receive data from ActionCable, we're gonna be calling it with this data method. We're gonna just append that data into the DOM inside of our messages div. Now let me open up the backend cable here. Now, this is one of the things about the Rails 5 ActionCable generator that is kind of confusing is that stream from is not set by default, so you need to populate it. It's simply going to be room channel, and then speak is going to have data passed to it. The front end's actually going to be through ActionCable. You're going to be getting a hash. So here we'll have data, and then we'll have that'll have a message key within it. Now, in order to broadcast back out to the browser, we're just going to say ActionCable dot server dot broadcast, and then we're going to say room underscore channel and data message, and that's it. We should be wired up for ActionCable now. So what I'm going to do, when you make changes to ActionCable, you need to always restart the Rails server. So I'll go ahead and restart the Rails server here. And then we'll go back over to the browser and give it a shot. Okay, so let's see what happens here. Okay, we successfully upgraded to our WebSocket here. So now let's just make sure that on the console, let's see if we can send a message. Wow, very cool. So it works. That's fantastic. So that's ActionCable. That's real-time in Rails in 15 minutes. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and make it actually save the messages to the database. Right now, if I reload this page, those messages are going to disappear. They're not being stored. They're not being persisted. So now we're going to persist those messages. We already created a message model. So now we just have to have our ActionCable implementation create message records. So we'll go ahead and get back to the code here, and let's go ahead and do that. So instead of having the speak actually just broadcast back out, we're just going to go ahead and create a message. So we'll say message.create, and then we'll just say content colon message or data message. So the issue here is that now we're creating the message, but now we've got to broadcast it back out to ActionCable. So how will we do that? Well, let's go ahead and jump into our model and look at that. Okay, now we're in the model. Well, what we want to do here is we want to have an after create commit. After we create the object and we commit it to the database, then we want to send the message out to the channel. In order to do that, we're not going to want to do this inside the context of the channel itself, so we're going to want to use a background job for that. So I'm going to go ahead and create a broadcast message job, and I'm going to tell it to perform later, which will run it in the background, and I'm going to pass this particular message object that was created to it. Now we'll go ahead and use the generators to generate that job. So we'll go Rails generate job, and we'll say broadcast message. Now we'll go ahead and generate our broadcast message job. So we can pop that open. So let's go ahead and edit that job. We're going to perform. We're going to get, when we get called, we're going to be getting our message object there. So now what we need to do here is this is where we're going to broadcast. So we're going to say ActionCable dot server dot broadcast, and we're going to say room channel, and then we're going to send our message. But we're going to have to render. We want to render that message. What we're going to do is we're going to actually use Action View to do our rendering. So we can say render message, And then we'll go ahead and implement a private method with that render function. So we'll say render message. And then in here, we'll go ahead and use a shiny new Rails 5 feature, which is we can go to the application controller and we can use render. And we can call render.render. And then this will use the view layer of Rails on the back end. So we can now do full Rails view rendering from background jobs or any other sort of backend job. Or the main purpose of this was for Rails API. So let's go ahead and render the message. And now calling that, it'll know to find our partial and will render our HTML. And with that, we will be able to use all the caching mechanisms available in Rails, which is really fantastic. Okay, great. So now we have that broadcast message job. Because we made changes to the channel, we will want to kill our Rails process. So we'll do that. We'll restart that. And then we'll also go ahead and update our room.coffee there and take our paragraph tag out of that. So we'll go into the JavaScript's channels, room.coffee. And we'll go in here, and right here where we put this paragraph tag, we're no longer going to need that because we are going to be passing the HTML from Rails. Rails is going to be rendering our HTML for us. Great. Okay, so we should be able to see ActionCable with persistent data now. So let's go back and look at the browser again. Okay. Boom, hello world. Everything's all good. Okay, let's go ahead and say Jeff, wow, cool. Then we can say Travis, neat. And when we reload, those messages will still be there. So what's happening here is we're making that RPC call over WebSockets to the backend. The backend is creating a record in the database, and then after it creates it, we have a callback that is firing a background task that renders the HTML template and spits it back out over the WebSocket to the client, and we see it in the browser. Very, very cool and very easy. So with that, I will say that is the conclusion of ActionCable chat in Rails. You can use that with multiple users, and without authentication, they can message back and forth. Obviously, that's just a little toy implementation. So at this point, I'm going to take a step further, and I'm going to add user registrations and ownership of messages to this implementation. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to add devise in to our gem file. Devise is a popular user registrations gem. It's highly advisable to use something like devise to implement user accounts. It's been battle tested. There's, it uses battle tested cryptographic algorithms for managing passwords, and it's something that I highly recommend. For this, I'm going to use their GitHub repository as a gem. There may be some compatibility issues using the bleeding edge versions of Rails, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and makes it pretty reliable. So let's go ahead and run a bundle. And after this bundle completes, we're going to go ahead and run the devise generators to get things set up in our project. Okay, we're bundled. So we're going to go ahead and run the devise install. That's going to go ahead and just set up our devise basics. Now I'm going to use the devise generator to generate a user model for us to use. This will be our user that we use for registrations. And lastly, I'm going to actually go ahead and add ownership, the reference for our user to messages. This is using a cool feature of that was introduced in Rails 4.2, I believe, that lets you use add references with migrations, which makes it very easy to add references. Now that we've got our user added to the messages, we'll go ahead and run a migration. Then I'm going to go ahead and commit this so that we have a stopping point here. Great. Very cool. Okay, so now we need to add ownership to our model. So I'm going to go into the model and we're going to add our relationship in here. We're going to give it ownership by our user. And then we're going to go ahead and pop into our controller and require authentication. Great. Okay, so let's add an authentication there. This is how we add authentication using the devise controls. Cool. So now that we're at that point, I'm going to go ahead and jump in and pull in some HTML templates that I prepared for this. Update our application HTML there, some basic stuff. Just change the title and a couple other little things, make it a little bit more attractive. I'm going to go ahead into the message and we're going to populate that one. A little bit more markup there in the messages, a little more advanced. We're introducing the user's email address and that sort of thing. Now let's go ahead and pop into the coffee. In room.coffee, basically just added this line here to scroll to the top so it's a little bit more attractive. That's it. Now we're going to go into rooms.coffee, which is the controller JavaScript. And I'm just going to add, it's going to make it a little bit more attractive on load. It's going to unload. We're going to scroll the messages to the top. We're going to focus the input. That's about it. Cool. And we're going to also implement some JavaScript to input on the messages. And lastly, we're going to update our main room template here. Now we're going to add a logout link. We're just rendering the messages. Nothing too fancy there. Great. Okay, so now we've got those updates in there. It's fantastic. We're going to need now to add the current user to messages when we create them. So in order to do that, we're going to have to implement our current user on our application channel. This is because ActionCable doesn't actually have access to the user session. It only has access to the user's cookies. So in order to implement that, we're going to have to utilize the hooks that are provided by Warden, which is part of Devise, in order to create cookies that sign in and destroy cookies that sign out. So in order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and create a new file. So we need to go ahead and go into our config here and go into our initializers, where this is where you initialize your gems and whatnot. And I'm going to go ahead and add a new file there in the initializers there. So under the initializers, I'm going to actually be creating a warden underscore hooks.rb. And inside of this file, which I'll open up here, inside of this warden hooks file, I'm going to go ahead and read in a file I've got here already prepared. And basically for warden, we're just going to have after the user is authenticated, we're going to set a cookie that's signed with the cryptographic secret key of the app, and we're going to set an expiration date. Then we're going to delete that cookie at logout, and we'll go ahead and save that. Then we're going to have to go open up our connection, our application cable connection here. So we'll go ahead and go into connection.rb. This is our application cable. Inside the connection, inside here, we're going to need to implement our current user method. So let me show you how that works. Basically, on connect to the cable, we're going to set the current user, the self current user, to find verified user, and then we're going to add a logger tag so that we can see messages from each user in the console. And we're going to implement this find verified user method, which will pull the current user by ID if it's there, and then return it. Otherwise, it'll reject it. And that'll be it. Very good. Okay, we'll save that guy. And now let's go ahead and update all of our message records so that they all have a user, because before we can use the users, we're going to need to do that. So we'll jump out of here and we'll run the console again. Now, Spring may give us trouble here. Spring's a preloader. I'm gonna restart it because we added new gems and lots of things changed. Oops, didn't need to do that, but we'll go ahead and let Spring start over itself. Pop open the console here, and I'm gonna go ahead and update the messages to all have a user. So we're going to go ahead and just do message.all.update underscore all, and then I'm going to say user underscore ID :1. We're just going to update all of the messages to have the same user ID there. Pretty straightforward. Okay. Now let's go ahead and fire up our app again. When we reload here, we are going to get, we're going to have to authenticate. Okay. This is Devise here, so we're going to go ahead and create a new account. Go ahead and sign up. Okay, here's our messages. So now we have timestamps, we have our email addresses attached to it. We could register multiple users and chat. Looks like we got a bug. So our transaction isn't functioning correctly, and it's because we haven't added a current user onto our channel. So we'll go ahead and get in there and do that. What we need to do here is go into our channel And right here, we're going to need to say user : current _ user. So now when we create a message, we're going to pass the current user, and that's going to come from that implementation that we built in the application cable. Great. So because I made a change to the channel, I have to restart the Rails server. So we'll go ahead and restart the Rails server. We'll reload. And let's pull up the browser. Great. Okay. Boom. There we go. We're sending new messages. Very cool. Okay, so that's it. We've got user registrations. We're able to create messages. I'm going to go ahead and do a side-by-side demo here. Let's go ahead and pull up. I'm going to pull up my desktop, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up another browser here. And pull them up side by side. Now I'm going to use an incognito browser here, so we can get 2 sessions fired up. Let's go in there and let's create a new account here. We'll say Joe. Go ahead and sign up. Cool, Joe's in there. Go in here in the console, and I'm just going to send a message. Hey, we got a message from Joe down here. Now, if I send a message from this client, we'll see neat. We'll see that populate down in here in that client. Very cool. Okay. So we'll go ahead and get back into the code here. The next thing we're going to do, I'm just going to put a style sheet on here. So let's do that. Let's make it look nice. And actually, I'm gonna update the show. That's gonna be the only other file we're gonna change here. Let's get this guy an update. Okay, let's see what she looks like. And here it is. Ta-da! And I'll go ahead and open up another browser window here, and we'll take a look. I'll send a message. I'll send a couple messages. Very cool. That's it. So there we go. There you have it. There's a real-time chat with ActionCable, user registrations, and a nice pretty Slack skin. Thanks for watching.